Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of the Hold On To Your Butts podcast. I am Brogan, and today I will be joined by Wyatt, as always, but unfortunately Blev had the flu and couldn't join us, so we had a stand-in and a good friend of ours, Buddy, who is our resident Nintendo expert, to discuss a little bit more about our initial thoughts of the Switch and specifically our time spent in Hyrule in Zelda. And then later on the show, in honor of our friend Buddy being a former contestant, that's right, a former contestant on The Price is Right, we play a little game of Price is Right of our own instead of scenarios today. So stay tuned, crack open a cold one, and enjoy the Hold On To Your Butts podcast, episode number 4.
Hold on to your butt.
My life is shattered about one pound.
Your life was based on your understanding of Trader Joe's?
I feel like there's no reason to live anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hold On To Your Butts, episode number 4. So glad you guys came back to give us a second chance.
Yeah, you messed up the math already.
Up.
We got a guy that's good with math.
Yeah, we got a guy that's good with math. That guy who's good with math, we'll get to him in a second. But first off, we are excited to bring you an in-depth episode today on Zelda Breath of the Wild, guys.
And Nintendo.
And Nintendo. Switch in general, and just Nintendo memories. It's a Nintendo-themed show. If you don't like Nintendo, then fuck you. This is not your show. But we don't always talk about Nintendo, but we got a very special guest today who is the resident Nintendo expert. And by expert, I mean it is impossible to beat this man in any Nintendo-themed video game. Our very good friend, Buddy. Buddy, please say hello to the studio audience.
The studio audience.
Yep.
That's so official. Hi, how's everybody doing?
We're doing real good, bud. Oh.
Thanks, Minnie
What
Mouse.
do they
This little Irish man in the corner.
Does the entire audience speak in one voice?
That's right, we do. They have rehearsals. I don't know what's happening. We're off track, but hey. Guys, we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button here about our initial reactions. Well, I guess we can't even really say initial reactions to Zelda Breath of the Wild so far because I think we've all poured a serious amount of time into this game. What are your overall reactions, Buddy? I'll start with you. To the game and the Switch in general. Just focusing, I guess, specifically on Zelda Breath of the Wild. What do you think so far, and how does it stack up?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I guess I kind of have a unique perspective because you guys talk a lot about, PS4 and Xbox and PC and stuff on the show. I never owned any of those. I've only ever owned a Nintendo system. So I've never really actually played a legit open world game. So just in the first place, that's amazing to me. And the second thing, this is one of the best open world games that there is, so it's just kind of blowing my mind right now.
That's funny because Ocarina of Time is considered open world, but you look back on it and you're like, that thing's tiny. And they even have graphs that compare the two, Breath of the Wild to Ocarina of Time, and it's literally like a friggin' football field to the entire planet. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I definitely did not download an emulator and play a little bit of Nintendo 64 for 4 games, including Ocarina of Time, just to mess around with it after I spent some time with Breath of the Wild. And it is I will honestly still say it's amazing that Ocarina of Time still holds up. And maybe that's just my memories of it and fondness and stuff. But I mean, obviously compared
it's a
to
great game. It's a great story. And then Ganon's a person in that game, and that's I know in the couple older ones and Link of the Past that he is a person in that and then becomes a monster and stuff like that. But he's an actual kind of a person. He was an advisor to the
Gerudo,
king.
right?
Yeah, he was one of the only male Gerudos that's born, which is super rare. And he was an advisor to the king that betrayed him. And that's kind of cool that you get to fight him as a person. And then, of course, he turns into Ganon. And I just really like that.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. If you
haven't played, I think we passed
timely.
the statute of limitations on spoilers for Ocarina of Time.
I read an article, so everybody talks about Ocarina of Time being the best Zelda, maybe before this one came out. But the best Zelda, the one everybody remembers. But then they did a survey at several colleges of people our age that grew up playing it. And it was 50-50 with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think
it's a great game.
Yeah, I don't think people give Majora's Mask enough credit. I absolutely loved that game. I thought that game was fantastic. It was hard. You had to deal with the whole 3-day day cycle, right? I remember the different masks. There was 4 or 5 that specifically transformed you. You became like a Zora,
Goron,
and
a Deku dude.
The
A Deku
flying
dude.
guy.
Yeah.
That was a really good game.
Well, they in that game, so it was a tough game, and then if you wanted to get 100% completion with all the masks, it made it even harder. And I remember the one dungeon where you flip upside down over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Oh my
And that one
God.
is really,
Stone
really.
Temple.
I think that what?
Stone Temple. or
Yeah,
something.
it's super hard. I went back and tried to play it. I literally got stuck on that one, and
Yeah.
I always thought, like, as a kid, I always got stuck on. But as an adult, I never had trouble with Zelda temples for a very long time. That one, I got stumped.
That was kind of that game's water temple, I think. Yeah.
So I think it's harder than the water temple.
So, guys, today we're going to be bringing you really just a show around, again, Nintendo Switch and Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, and there will be minor spoilers, I would say. Just keep that in check. We're going to kind of talk to each other about where we are in the game, and that might be a different spot than where you are in the game, and we might be talking about items we've unlocked that you haven't unlocked yet. So just keep that in mind. We'll steer as clear from the story as we possibly can. Really just more about the mechanics and stuff like that. But on that note, on the topic of impossibly hard dungeons, what I've noticed so far is from the first 2 dungeons that I've only done 2 so far. I've done the Zora dungeon and the Gerudo dungeon. Ruta and
They've got hard names.
they're very difficult
Couldn't have
names.
been
Yeah, and they're very similar.
dungeon.
Yeah, bird dungeon, dog dungeon.
It's a camel.
Camel. The camel one. That was the one. Yeah.
Why was Zora an elephant?
Do you guys think that these are
Why not?
easier dungeons?
Very much.
They're very much easier dungeons, or is it just because we're older, or what's the deal?
The Gerudo one is the hardest of the 4, I think. I think I solved it on accident without putting much thought on it. And I flew through all 4 real fast. The bosses are pretty fun, especially the Gerudo one is really a fun, challenging boss. But they are really short. I think they emphasize... So there was a formula to the old Zelda games. Go very linear, go to this temple, pick up a new item that helps you beat that boss, which will help you access the next temple. And then this one's very different. They're like, any order, there's no set new item. That there will be items that help you that you can get, you can or cannot get. But there's no, that formula is done in this one.
Yeah.
And so the temples aren't really a focus, large temples. They focus on like 200 mini temples and puzzles.
And using what you already have from the beginning of the game to get through them. Do you like that better than the traditional model? Or?
Do I like it better? I don't think I like it better or worse. I like it, I would say. I think the original formula worked with Majora's Mask, all of them. I mean, every previous Zelda game, that's how it worked. That was the formula, never went away from it. This one finally did.
I really appreciate the mixture of kind of feeling like you're always in a dungeon with this game, but also they break it up kind of nicely with open world traversal, which I think this game does better than any fucking game I've ever played. You can climb everything. I think this game is as revolutionary of like a next step in video games as like Super Mario 64 was in my eyes. Like the fact that everything you look at you can climb, and it's really just about your stamina wheel if you can get up there or not, or if you have the right food in your inventory to help you out along the way.
Yeah.
That to me is like so revolutionary and so cool, and you can just spend. And somehow they made that fun. They made climbing fun. Like it shouldn't be, but
Because every time you have to climb up somewhere, you can fly down, and that's the fun part too.
yeah, and that's part of it too. Like, I think in other games that I play, and Buddy, you kind of mentioned this at the top of the show, you're not a PlayStation 4 guy or an Xbox guy. You've only had Nintendo. I'm very much a console gamer, and I have played a lot of open world games on console, and a lot of like linear games that sort of masquerade as open world games, and I'm kind of specifically going at Uncharted with this. Like, Uncharted is a fantastic game, and that game is based around climbing and combat, and it's fantastic. But the climbing in that game is super linear. There's clearly ledges that you can jump to.
Clearly,
and
you can't, even though they're like, hey, how is that different than the other one? But you can't.
Exactly. Yeah, they're still like bottlenecking you down the path, And this game says no. It's literally you're out in the wild. You can go do whatever you want, and I am in love with that. I'm so in love with that.
Do you feel like it's going to be hard to go back now?
I actually do. So I'll bring this up. That's a great point. So we talked a little bit about last week on the show or the week before. So I got Horizon Zero Dawn right before Zelda came out. And that's a great game. I mean, if that came out at any other time, that would be my favorite game that I've played in a really long time. It is absolutely fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from that game. But I will say, so my wife and I have been just tearing through Zelda, like at a breakneck speed. We can't stop playing. I mean, every second we get, which, by the way, like another quick side note, is an amazing thing about the Switch. You don't have to stop playing, like, ever. We went to a bar and got margaritas the other week, and we're the nerds that were sitting there with our Switch.
Drinks and Link.
Yeah, ew!
Hey!
That's not cool, guys.
It's pretty cool. Hey, you're married, it doesn't matter anymore. Who am I trying to impress? But I will say that Horizon Zero Dawn, she's out of town this week, and I had a chance to go back. She won't let me play Zelda while she's out of town because we got to do it together.
All right, divorce her.
Yeah, I know. But I'm okay with that. Like, I'm really enjoying playing with her. It's fun to have like a buddy to play with. Like that. But also, I had a chance last night to go back to Horizon Zero Dawn just because, something else to do. And it's still great. The combat is great. The graphics it's the most beautiful game I've ever played. Like, all the props in the world to Guerrilla, the same team that did Killzone, if you guys are familiar, did Horizon. But I was out there doing a mission, and there's parts you can climb, but it's a very small amount of things you can climb in that game. Mm-hmm. So if you've seen the trailers for the game, there's these giant, like, tall neck robot monster dinosaurs that you have to climb up, and it's very clear you can only jump on and climb onto the yellow ledges. If it's not a yellow ledge, you can't jump to it. And I found myself super frustrated with that. I was like, oh, fuck, like,
why? You're like, why?
Where's my goddamn stamina circle? Like, I can climb this whole fucking thing. Just give me the shot.
Well, Buddy and I were talking before the show started, and there's an island it's kind of like Castaway. You go to it and you lose all your items, and you have to solve the puzzle with scavenging.
Eventide Island.
Yeah, and there's a big monster, and when you lose, this monster is really not a difficult monster to kill throughout the game when you see him, but on that island he is because you're literally naked. I mean, you want boxers on. It's
like Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, and so.
Well, we're naked right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's normal for us, but for Link, maybe not.
Right.
So so that monster has a key, or basically the key to get out around his neck as a necklace. And Buddy chose to knock it off and then take it. You have bombs, and in this game they're like magical bombs, so you have infinite of them. And I chose to just throw bombs at him and run away until he died. It took me about 20 minutes because...
Oh my God, knocking it off is such a good idea.
Yeah. I literally but I killed him, and it took me 20 minutes to just throw a bomb, walk away, throw a bomb, walk away. He's very slow. And my way felt really cheap, right? He was very clever and but I don't think the creators of Zelda care. They encourage you to do however you want to do it. My friend at work, he beat a temple, and he was very cheap the way he did it. Like, he hid in a corner. He felt like he wasn't supposed to be, and he was supposed to do something way more clever. I was like, I don't think they care. They're not pushing you in a direction. They give you hints and goals, but they don't really care how you do it.
There's a tremendous amount of trust that the developers give to you in that game, and that's I appreciate that, I think, more than anything about this game. And I think the example that I have with that is, do you remember really early on in the game, is this when you're going? Yeah, this is when you're going to the Zora Temple, and you have to go see your first red Lionel up in the mountains and stuff, and you try to take a couple swings at that guy, and you're like, fuck this.
Do you remember last week when I told you some asshole fucking creature one-shotted me when I took him on in Coliseum? Was a Lionel. And now those guys aren't too hard to kill. They're still pretty tough, but they're not too hard to kill.
Speak for yourself.
Those assholes, those are assholes. They're the hardest mini-boss, I think, in the game.
What do you get from beating? I haven't
Lionel
killed one yet.
shield, Lionel bow that shoots multiple arrows at once, and then their guts and stuff like that you can sell.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to go back and try to beat that one with the electric arrows all around him, I think, this next time around. I would imagine. Is he one of the easier ones?
Instead of sneaking around, you can't freeze him. If you freeze him, it's literally, you know what I mean?
A second, yeah.
You can't freeze him. You can't freeze their time. You literally just have to pull out your shield and man up.
I just run around him.
Yeah,
you got him
right now. But that's part of it, right? That the developers let you do that. It's like, if you want to fight this guy, great. If you just want to go run around and collect these arrows, which I think you're kind of supposed to do that early in the game. You're not expecting you to beat him.
If that's your first temple, you won't be able to stand toe to toe with him. It was, it was my first temple, but I had put hours and hours into not doing any temples before I went there. So I did take them on, and I probably had fairies or something when I died and came back to life. But
Yeah.
he was a dick.
I avoided grabbing fairies for so long because I was like, fuck, I don't have an empty jar. There's no way I'm going to grab these fairies. Like,
True, they're
Now